What's up, DJs and producers? It's DJ Contour, and in this video, we're gonna make a DJ or producer tag. A producer or DJ tag usually consists of a vocal phrase and a few sound effects. So I've already found a couple sound effect samples that I may want to use. I'm not sure which though. We have a tape stop, which was my original idea, broken glass, or the standard gunshot. The first thing I'm going to need to do is to record a vocal phrase into my DAW. Yo, Contour, crank that shit. So now that I have a basic vocal phrase that I want to use, I'm going to process it. First, I want to see if there's any corrections that need to be made, so I'm going to drop an EQ on. Yo, Contour, crank that shit. So we saw down at the bottom, we have a bunch of unnecessary information that doesn't need to be in there, so I'm going to filter that out. Yo, Contour, crank that shit. And that sounds a little better without all that low-end information. I think I want to add a little bit of brightness to the top end, so let's play it back and boost the highs a little bit. Yo, Contour, crank that shit. Yo, Contour, crank that shit. I think that sounds a little better. And I think it sounds a little boxy just under 1,000 hertz, so I'm going to sweep and see where I can take a little bit out. Yo, Contour, crank that shit. 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 Now I want to add a little bit of compression to make sure all the levels are more even. So I'm going to stick with the standard 4:1 ratio, and I'm going to bring the attack all the way down. What that's going to do is it's going to immediately start squashing and compress everything. That way it becomes more uniform. And I'll just leave the release on auto. Yo, Contour, crank that shit. Yo, Contour, crank that shit. So I've brought it down about 5 to 7 decibels. So I'm going to boost it back up just a tiny bit. Yo, Contour, crank that shit. And now you can hear it sounds a little more uniform. So just for demonstrations purposes, I've resampled this. The dark blue sample is the new recorded audio loop. You can see that's a little more uniform and a lot less jagged on the tops. So now that we've corrected it, I want to add some effects. I think I want to mess around with the pitch informant, so I'm going to add Little Altar Boy. What I was thinking was the standard lower pitch. Yo, Contour, crank that shit. Yo, Contour, crank that shit. So in this case, I think linking the pitch and the formant at -7 sounds pretty nice.
Yo, Contour, crank that shit.
Now I think I want to add a little bit of width, so I'm going to grab chorus. Let's see what that sounds like.
Yo, Contour, crank that shit.
And that sounds pretty good. I think I'm going to dial it back just a tiny bit.
Yo, Contour, crank that shit.
And let's play with the different modes.
Yo, Contour, crank that shit.
And a little bit of feedback. And finally, 10% warmth adds a little bit of heat to it. So we'll do before and after.
Yo, Contour, crank that shit. Yo, Contour, crank that shit.
And finally, I think I want to add a little bit of reverb. So I brought the mix knob back all the way to 32% and then brought the decay down to almost half a second. And that sounds like this.
Yo, Contour, crank that shit.
So it just adds a little bit of extra body to it. And finally, I want to add my sound effect. So this one, I first want to stretch it because I definitely want it a little longer and stretch this out. I think I'm going to do 200. Okay, that's pretty good. And let's find where I want to place this first. So let's listen and we're going to chop it.
Crank that shit. Crank that shit.
Should be right around there.
Shit.
So I'm going to cut that right there. That way I know where my spot is, and I'm going to drag this back.
Yo, Contour, crank that shit.
And then we're going to get rid of that part.
Yo, Contour, crank that shit.
So let me see if I drag this out a tiny bit more. See how that sounds.
Yo, Contour, crank that shit.
And this is where it gets a little tricky, is just fine-tuning where you want that sound effect to hit.
Yo, Contour, crank that shit.
That's good. Now this is definitely overpowering the vocal, so I want to bring this down a little bit.
Yo, Contour, crank that shit.
I think that's pretty good. Maybe I'll stretch this out a little bit more.
Crank that shit.
That's pretty good there. Now I want to EQ out that kick drum. And we really just want the tape stop, so I'm going to get rid of all that low end. That should be pretty good. Let's listen to that back.
Crank that shit. Yo, Contour, crank that shit.
And what I might actually do, instead of trying to EQ that, is just cut it and see if that sounds any better. That way we've removed a lot of that transient from the kick drum, and we don't have to really aggressively EQ it. Okay, now let's move the broken glass over and see which one we like.
Yo, Contour, crank that shit.
That's a little thin, so I think we're going to pass on the glass. And let's just try the gunshot just for the heck of it.
Yo, Contour, crank that shit.
Ooh, I actually like that. So let's make some adjustments on this. Bring this volume down. So I'm going to filter out the lows on that again. That way it's not so boomy when it hits.
Yo, Contour, crank that shit.
Might be a little too much, so let's dial it back.
Yo, Contour, crank that shit.
I think that's pretty good. And then I'm going to slowly fade that audio out. That way it's a little less of a hard stop at the end. And let's play it back one more time.
Yo, Contour, crank that shit.
I think that's pretty good. So let's resample that.
Yo, Contour, crank that shit.
And here we have our final producer tag. So I'm going to rename this and export it, and then we could drop it in on a project. And since this is a sample, I'm going to normalize it. So now that we've opened another project, all I have to do is drag my producer tag in, adjust the volume a little bit, and play it out.
Yo, Contour, crank that shit.
Thanks for checking out this video. Please don't forget to like and hit that subscribe button. That way this video reaches more producers like you. I'm DJ Contour, and I'll see you in the next video.